Imagine a
Join us now as on the Writers' Corner live shows, we welcome Marjorie McCown back to discuss her latest release, Starstruck, a Hollywood Mystery. We delve into the thrilling sequel with insights into Joey Jessup's continued journey through Hollywood's glitz and peril. Don't go away. We'll be right back with the Writers' Corner live show.
Imagine a world where the lines of reality blur with the fantastical. Embark on journeys from humble beginnings to the pinnacles of literary greatness. On the Writers' Corner, we delve into the lives of unique wordsmiths, known for their compelling storytelling. They are artisans who craft fantastical realms, etched in our memory long after the final page is turned. Every tale begins with a single word, a single idea. Authors create sensations that keep you on the edge of your seat. Witness how they transform setbacks into stepping stones, use refusals to spark growth, and turn rejections into catalysts for new inspiration. Witness the diversity in writing as it gives birth to a vast array of genres, from drama to mystery to children's stories, fantasy, and reality. Join us as we uncover sources of inspiration and the magic that defines the author's craft. Find out how authors breathe life into their characters and meticulously craft narratives and plots that captivate readers. Get a sneak peek into upcoming works, and join us as we celebrate literary greatness, only on the Writers' Corner. We don't just celebrate best-selling Amazon and New York Times authors, but also indie authors. Join us on the journey from the birth of a tale to the creation of a masterpiece, only on the Writers' Corner live show. Stay tuned.
If you're just joining us, then a hearty warm welcome to the Writers' Corner live show. If you are not yet following us on our social media channels, then please do so, because that way you'll get notified when we go live next time. If you haven't met me yet, my name is Bridgetti Lim Banda from Cape Town in South Africa, and in today's show of the Writers' Corner Live, we're going to be talking to Marjorie McCown. And our live stream is brought to you by Creative Edge, StreamYard, and Be Live Media. But before we introduce our amazing guest, Marjorie, I first want to say hello to my...
Hello, how are you today? I'm so excited to be here. We're so excited to have our show, and we're so excited. We have one of our very, very favorite people on today, Marjorie, and we just love to hear about all her adventures and her journey, because she's had a very unique journey that we get to share with our audience. So we're excited. This is our second time having her on, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It's the second time that Marjorie's been on our show, and we are very, very excited that that she joined us today. So for those of you who have not yet met Marjorie, she started in theater and opera costume design before mastering Hollywood with 25 years of film work, including classics like, and you'll know this if you've been around a while, she's worked on classics like Forrest Gump, X-Men, Days of Future Past, a member of Sisters in Crime and Mystery Writers of America. Marjorie channeled her expertise into captivating debut novel Final Cut, and now we're talking about her latest released, Starstruck, a Hollywood Mystery. So shall we welcome her to the show?
Yes. Hi, Marjorie. How are you?
Welcome, welcome.
Hi, Bridgetti. Hi, Mary Elizabeth. I'm so delighted to be here with both of you. Thank you for having me today.
Oh, we just love having you here. And, you know, I was listening to Bridgetti's voice, and I bet you're going to second me on this. I think she should do some narration, and she should do some.
Oh,
I love listening to her talk, and I think I would love listening to an audiobook with her voice. So we're going to find you some work, Bridgetti.
I think that's a fabulous
Why,
idea.
thank you, ladies.
I totally think so. I can listen to her every day. I love it. I think we Americans have very boring voices if we're just
I don't know. I don't find your voice boring, but Bridgetti's is distinctive and just has a wonderful timbre, and you're so expressive.
Yeah,
both of you are really, but yes, I think that's a fantastic idea.
I never considered the idea, but I'm always open to suggestions, and I trust you, ladies.
There we go. There we go. Well, Marjorie, we're going to dive right in because we only have 30 minutes and we just have so much to talk to you about. So transitioning from costume designer to author, what inspired your exploration of Hollywood's darker side in Starstruck?
Well, for one thing, I think conflict is at the heart of any good story. So I really, in Starstruck, wanted to look at the contrast between, and this is something I thought about certainly a lot and struggled with a little bit in my work in Hollywood. I loved being part of creating these glamorous worlds and big, expansive worlds that took millions of dollars to put together, to put on screen. But I always struggled with the fact of the reality around us, which is we live in a big, complicated city that's full of struggle for a lot of people on a day-to-day level. And I wanted to explore those contrasts and the ambivalence it sometimes brings up, not only in me, but other colleagues I have in the industry, and inspires in the best situations philanthropy and wanting to bring to the fore attention to this dichotomy in our society, the very wealthy and the people who are really struggling on a day-to-day basis, the working poor, which becomes more evident every year in Los Angeles, where we have now, I'm sort of really delving into the dark side now, but there are 60,000 unhomed people on the streets of Los Angeles. And those, many of those people are not ill or addicted. They've been caught in the maelstrom of between the pandemic and just the cost of housing in a city like this. So long answer, long winding road answer, but that was the real impetus for looking at the darker side.
It's not just in America or in Los Angeles. I can tell you with absolute confidence that it's a global thing, because we have the exact same thing where I am. And it's amazing when you look into it, how many people are on the streets by choice because of their circumstances. It's not everyone's drug addicts or, for weird reasons. The cost of living has just spiraled out of control for a lot of people around the world. So just getting back to your amazing storytelling ability, Starstruck, correct me if I'm wrong, seems to follow Joey Jessup's journey amid murder and Hollywood chaos. What thematic elements did you prioritize in this sequel?
Well, I think that we touched on one of the main themes, but also it's by the circumstances that take place in the story. And very early on, there's a fatal traffic accident near the movie set, and Joey's invested in this situation because the person, for a couple of reasons, but the person who's killed is someone that she had a brief encounter with in a bodega right before. They're shooting a movie in downtown Los Angeles. And so they're on location for this particular shoot. And she goes across, and it's right in the middle. It's at a landmark building that's been completely restored and is often used for movie locations. But it's in the middle of an area where there are many homeless encampments. And so there's that in your face contrast between the two worlds she's working in. She goes across the street to get some soup before they start shooting that night. And she has a disturbing encounter with a young girl who seems to be in conflict with somebody else in the bodega, but she doesn't speak. Joey does not speak their language. She isn't sure what's going on. She just knows the girl's in trouble. And it starts to try and intervene, but then is intimidated by the owner of the bodega and told to leave, and she does. And then just a short time later, the girl dashes through traffic in the midst of rush hour in downtown Los Angeles and is hit by a car. And Joey feels like she should have intervened. If she had done something to intervene, then maybe this girl wouldn't have been running through traffic. And so she becomes invested in, she feels guilty about that. And then she realizes a little bit later in the evening, as the accident investigation is going on just 2 blocks from the movie shoot, that the car involved in the accident actually belongs to the leading lady of the movie that she's working on. Mm-hmm. And the police call it an accident, which is strictly what it was. But Joey feels like there's something more going on. And so there are these 2 things that pull her into the investigation. Part of it is her guilt for not doing something when she felt she had the chance to help somebody else. And that is one of the other themes of the book, besides this contrast. It's like, I mean, it's very simplistic, but I think it's universal, just like the contrast between the very wealthy and very poor is a universal element of our universe at this point. But the fact that if you look for the opportunities, you do have a chance to help somebody every day. And if you do that, it makes your life better. It makes you, I think it enriches you as a person. And it's a piece of energy that travels out into the universe. And in whatever small, ripply way, it enriches the entire society. So again, nothing super intellectual or unique, but just 2 very simple, basic themes, I think, are what are the through lines for this book. And hopefully Joey grows as a person and as a character through this journey that she takes through the investigation. And it becomes a journey of self-discovery as much as a journey for answers about the truth of what's happened.
Very good. And that sort of touches on the next question that we have about Joey facing the mounting pressures. And then how in the book do you deepen our understanding of her character as well as the complexities of the film industry? And it sounds like you're covering all of that and trying to kind of, you're really bringing all that in. So,
but thank you. You've really focused me some on that. Yes. And I mean, part of that is finding that balance, which is a challenge I think that we all have in our very busy world. We have our everyday responsibilities, which we can't ignore and should not ignore. We can't ignore our own lives and the pressures that are going on there, both personally and we all have professional pressures, no matter what. But the film industry really is sort of exponentially. Well, that's my experience. I can't say, and I'm sure it's true for anybody in any. But the film industry is what I know about, and you just have each day is so packed with tasks to accomplish. And on a film, 12 hours is just a baseline day for work. and you start knowing you're going to be there for 12 hours, and especially when you're shooting or in the last stages of prepping a movie, you're going to work beyond that, well beyond that. It was not unusual at all to, do a string of 18-hour days for, a month, 2 months at a time, or more, depending on the movie. But anyway, so it's balancing those pressures and finding a way to still connect with your authenticity as a human being with some empathy while you're managing those pressures. I mean, I'm not sure that I sort of wandered far afield, but that was part of the balancing act that we all have to manage in our various ways.
I think you answered it well. Now, when people talk about toxic environments, I think the film industry is kind of the last thing they think of. It's always, people think of the glitz and the glamour when it comes to shooting movies. But, the first book highlighted the toxicity of the workplace in the film industry. How does Starstruck, as the sequel, further explores this theme, and how do you maintain the balance of keeping it suspenseful?
Oh, those such good questions. And also, you've made me. One thing that I probably haven't done enough to balance is that, and possibly it was in reaction to what I know is the public image of the film industry as being all glitz and glamour. And not obviously, you all, not everybody knows me, but I wouldn't have stayed in an industry that was completely toxic for 25 years if that's all it was, because I always have found a lot of reward. And this is part of my inspiration for writing the books too, is to shine a light on the community behind the scenes, because the film community is a microcosm of our larger community, but there are all kinds of people, of course. And by and large, I found many more good people than I found toxic people. Although the situation in Final Cut, the toxicity of that can happen, the misogyny, the abusive behavior, you will find that, certainly. And I think I chose to highlight that in Final Cut because, again, it's a good way to bring conflict, which is, again, the heart of any good story, into the mix. But it's also true. But I hope that at some point people do see the fun and joy in the work, because it's very creative work, and I always loved that. That's what that and the community, because the costume community is such a highly trained, skilled, talented group of people. And I did want to shine a light on that, particularly because that's the community that I was part of and knew best, but also all the community behind the scenes. And my hope was to take readers on an insider's guided tour into the everyday working world of a movie in production. So it was, and I realized that I haven't hit quite probably the balance I was aiming for, because I would hope that, both sides would show that it is both good and bad. And that was part of my impetus in writing the books, and to show, again, as I said, highlight the skills and talents of the people behind the scenes, the things that and there's no reason that you should know about them, because there's no way to know what goes on behind the scenes of a feature film unless you've observed it very closely, worked there, whatever. So I'm hoping to give readers some new and, hopefully interesting information. At the same time, I'm telling them a story. And, I guess this maybe says, not maybe, it says a lot about me that picked out some of the darker aspects. I think that's the murder mystery buff in me. But and I'm sorry, I don't know that I've addressed the suspense. Bridgetti, I'm sorry. Could you repeat what that part of the question was?
It was, I was just wanting to know, how do you balance highlighting workplace toxicity with keeping the suspense?
Right. Well, I just try and keep my eye on the ball in terms of, okay, what is she worried about now and what does she need to do about it? Or what happens to make her more worried or pushing her toward looking for another answer about something? I just try and keep the thread of the story moving forward. And that's, I think, the balance, because when I'm writing about something that I know in such a granular, detailed way, this is what I'm going to repeat myself now, because what I try and do is show the workplace, but not and provide readers with a new look at a world that they think they know from the outside, but see the other side of that world. At the same time, I don't lose the pace of the story, because if readers don't want to turn the page, then they're not going to, the rest of it doesn't really matter anyway, because they're just going to close the book and say, oh, that's enough for me. So it's just trying to follow and I am a big outliner, and that helps me in some ways, because I think of that outline almost like the shot list for camera setups on a movie. So that keeps me on track, hopefully, with what I need to do about the action. And it's also good for me because it helps me with the visualization of the scenes, because I've learned that if I can't visualize a scene, then I can't write about it. So I have to have that movie continually playing in my head.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like that. That's a good point.
A very good point. And there's no one better to do what you're trying to accomplish in this book than you, because you have lived it. And it is behind the scenes, because that's what it is. It's behind the scenes. But if someone like me or Bridgetti that did no research or had never been there, the book wouldn't be as effective and enriched as what you're doing. And you're sharing your expertise. And I think it's great, because the more detail that you can bring somebody in, and they can visualize, they can see themselves there, and they can, see the sitting there in the sewing and the little tiny beading and the costuming fittings and all those things. It is all that goes on. It helps enrich that story so much and brings someone like me or someone like Bridgetti into that world, like we like to escape, right? For reading is what we do. But so in this next question is, we're kind of asking that same thing along the line of balancing in Starstruck, the authenticity behind the scenes, the details with fictional narrative elements. We're wanting to know, how did you, because we were just talking about balance. So do you feel good about that you did, do you feel like you accomplished that?
I think there's, in hindsight, you can always say, well, I hope I learned from this. I hope I did better on this book than I did last book. And I hope that going forward, I can, build on that. But this book was largely, Final Cut was based on my experiences, not completely, but it was loosely based on my experiences with one film that I'm not going to name. But Starstruck was based loosely, again, there's no Jillian Best in my real life, but was based on my experiences on The Aviator. So I did draw directly from some of those experiences. And one of those was the whole situation that she comes upon that drives some of the story forward, at least in terms of her work, which is when she finds out that a set of costumes that they think is going to come complete from a vendor who's agreed to make them for free isn't going to be delivered. And what happened to us on the Aviator is that we had made a deal with Belstaff, the English sportswear manufacturer, to manufacture all of our World War I Aviator gear for free. They were really excited to do it because Leo DiCaprio was going to be wearing it on camera, and they do beautiful, and all of their sportswear is vintage inspired. So they do absolutely extraordinarily beautiful work. So that was all great because none of that gear exists in any quantity. And it certainly, the bit that does isn't wearable by modern human beings. So, but what happened was that at the last minute, 3 weeks before we were supposed to start shooting those scenes, Miramax, back in the bad old Weinstein days, stepped in and told Belstaff that in addition to manufacturing free gear for us, Miramax wanted from Belstaff $250,000 cash, and for them to sign a contract to provide free costumes for 3 more movies, TBD, sometime in the future. And Belstaff said, no, thank you, we're not going to do that. And so we found ourselves having to manufacture all of that with no patterns, no fabrics, nobody to make it, no budget because we hadn't budgeted for it, no time. So that provided the other inciting incident in Starstruck, besides the accident. You know, that was the personal journey, and this other was the professional journey that set Joey on the course. So yeah, and the way we took care of it was pretty much what I put down in the book. So I feel like that I worked in some realistic professional stuff pretty well into this book, and in a way that was more balanced, that wasn't, you know, it wasn't all bad. It was like, how do people pull together and get this done, as well as, you know, this challenging, to say the least, situation that was layered onto this crew. So
the drama.
The real life drama. Yes.
Oh my gosh, that's so
real life drama.
Hearing you talk about it stressing, I'm like, I can imagine y'all were like, oh my God, what are we gonna do?
The real story.
For a minute there, when it happened, my head did sort of explode for a minute. It was like, oh.
I'm sure a future word came out.
But then we just we got together, we huddled, we figured it out, and we really pulled together. I will say I didn't sleep very much for those 3 weeks between the time we found out and the time the stuff had to go on camera. But, that's what you do sometimes in any walk of life if something like that happens.
And you survived.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. Marjorie, we are totally out of time. I forgot to ask you. Do you?
No. You were supposed to.
Not at all.
We are here to listen and ask the questions, right, Bridgetti? We want you doing most of the talking because it is about you, and we love you so much.
Absolutely.
Well, I just get so caught up in the conversation with you that I not always as I do sort of wander far afield.
No, you did perfect.
Not at all.
To talk to you. Thank you so much.
It's a big pleasure. Marjorie, do you have a copy of the book handy?
I do.
Oh, I do too.
I love the cover. Love the cover.
Cricket Lane does such a great job, and I just love the covers they come up with.
Oh, I love them too. Yes, I know. I should have brought my copy with me up here, so I did not. But I love that. I love it. It's beautiful.
And I also like how they've kept it consistent with the previous one. So yes, it's just amazing. They've done a brilliant job. Love
they
it.
Really do. I have nothing to do with this cover situation, but I think they do a beautiful job. I'm very grateful.
They have. Marjorie, thank you so much. We can't wait to have you back on the show. When is the next one due? I'm putting you under the spotlight.
Oh, thank you. Well, I don't have any of that information, but I do have a title for the next one and a big long outline. Working title is Shot List.
Okay. Can't wait, can't wait, can't wait. Well, what can I say? We've got to have you back on the Writers' Corner live show. And with that, thank you to our amazing audience, and we'll see you back next time on another episode of the Writers' Corner live show. Take care, everyone, and bye for now. Thank you for joining us on the Writers' Corner live show. 30 minutes of insightful author conversations with some of the biggest names in the industry, including award-winning authors and international indie sensations. Join us on the next episode of the Writers' Corner live show.